When many people think of environmental racism, they often associate it with the impacts of climate change or gentrification. However, environmental racism also shows up in access to outdoor recreational activities. According to the National Health Foundation, there is a nature gap. Getting outdoors and away from the city is an inaccessible concept for many minorities. People of color make up nearly 40% of the total US population, yet close to 70% of people who visit national parks and forests are white. Black people remain the most dramatically underrepresented group in these spaces. This is not without consequence. Studies showed the direct benefits between being outdoors on a person's physical and mental health. Dr. Dennis Schell, a professor of psychology at the George Washington University, teaches about ecopsychology, which looks at the emotional bond between human beings and the earth.
A lot of the current research is suggestive that the environment has an enormous impact on mental health. Not just the noise pollution, but just being in a violent neighborhood, obviously, or in a neighborhood that really is basically just concrete and steel, has a negative impact on mental health. Does ecology, does the environment have any pluses? And the answer to that question is absolutely.
From the National Mall to Rock Creek Park, the District of Columbia actually ranks #1 in the US for its accessibility to parks and green space. This map shows DC's 636 parks in green and how 98% of district residents are just a 10-minute walk away from a park in light green. However, park equity and amenities throughout the district are not equally distributed. There are major efforts in place to increase the number of parks in wards 7 and 8, especially dog parks, because there are currently 0 in those two areas. Although there are local parks, like many living in urban areas throughout the country, DC residents also encounter challenges when it comes to being able to leave the city and go on longer hikes or go camping overnight. There are actually several systemic barriers to entry that make getting out of the city and into nature inaccessible. Financial barriers, including the cost of hiking gear, the fees to enter campgrounds, or the inability to get time off work, are all factors that might make it difficult for BIPOC families to participate in outdoor recreation. According to Nicole Boyd, the Black community's fraught relationship with the outdoors is written into the fabric of American history. Even national parks were still segregated until the 1960s and 70s.
Well, historically, the narrative will tell you that we don't deserve to be outside, or this is not the place for us to be. And really, when you think about it and you go back into time, for specifically for African Americans, it's just been a painful place. The outdoors, when you think about being in the woods, it's synonymous with lynching, slavery. So the outdoors has not been a place of a peaceful place.
Along with her friend Shara Tucker, Boyd founded Black Girls Hike RVA in Richmond, Virginia, to diversify the outdoors and make hiking and camping more accessible, especially for Black women, after an incident where she realized people weren't used to seeing Black and brown faces out in nature.
When we went to Crabtree Falls, which is in Virginia, we had a good time, and as we were walking, we were the only people of color there. And there were even, I guess, to so much of a surprise to everyone else, people would ask, "Oh, is she your," talking about my white friend, "is she the tour guide? Is she showing you guys out?" And we were like, "What? Why would she be our tour guide? She's part of the group."
Organizations to help underrepresented, diverse communities get outdoors are becoming more popular, especially due to COVID, but they are far from a new concept. James Goodwin, who was born and raised in Southeast DC, founded Goombay Adventures in the 80s, right here in the district. He believes that getting out in nature is much easier now than it was 30 years ago.
Especially with COVID, a lot of young groups have sprung up, and they realize that, hey, I can go out to Great Falls and hike just like everybody else can hike. But now when I was coming up, no one was going to Great Falls. And it wasn't because we weren't allowed to go. We just didn't know anything about it, So nowadays, there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of groups to go do stuff.
Goodwin noted that he has seen the direct correlation between mental health and outdoor access firsthand through the participants in his program.
When COVID hit, our hikes used to have numbers from 80 to 120, whereas before COVID, we may average 30 to 50. So as people started coming out, I would hear folks say on the trail, "Hey man, I'm glad you all did this. I've been in the house way too long. I needed to get out. I needed some exercise. I just needed a mental break." So people have told me all last year, year before last, they really felt that these hikes and being out, in nature really kind of helped them.
Unlike Boyd and Goodwin, Shara Tucker of Black Girls Hike did not grow up being very outdoorsy. She shared some wisdom about how anyone can get active outside, regardless of their background and prior knowledge.
For someone who has never, ever gone hiking before, I would say, once you get out there and do it, you're going to love it. Don't be overwhelmed by anything that you may see. Like sometimes when you go hiking, you're like, oh, it's 5 miles. I can't do 5 miles. You can set your pace and you can do it at your own pace. Don't ever feel like if you don't make it to the top of the mountain or the peak that you didn't do a good job. There are hikes where I've gone on and I was the last one to reach the peak, or I didn't make it at all because I had to turn around, because you have to know your body and know you. Just being one with nature sometimes can just refuel you and recharge you and make you just your best self. Because I really do believe that the outdoors is for everyone, and it's a safe space for everyone, no matter your color.
Despite historic and current barriers to access, these two organizations are spreading the message to the world that the outdoors are for everyone, and they're helping to diversify nature one hike at a time.